Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. But the angel said to me, Why did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, one is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going into perdition. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. Then he said to me, The waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw in the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is that great city, which reigns over the kings of the earth. And now we're going to go into greater detail about what the beast government is, and what will happen to it after God's wrath. So it says, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters. So we'll see that the harlot is a mystery called Babylon the Great, and it's a woman. So just like in Revelation 12, where there was a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, that was Israel. This, on the other hand, is the harlot, and the harlot is a city or a nation that is resting on the beast. And the beast is the government or kingdom of the Antichrist. This is a city that is aligned with this government, that's aligned with the Antichrist, in order to control the entire world and to have ties and relationships with the entire world, mainly through economical means because of the mark of the beast. So it says that the harlot sat on many waters. Many waters, which will be revealed in verse 15, are the peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So it's saying that these are many nations. These are countries from all around the world that the harlot, this city, has ties with. It says that this city, the harlot, that the kings of the earth committed fornication with the harlot, with this city, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So fornication is symbolic of false god, false idol worship. Just like when God calls a person that is Christian but allows themselves to be influenced or follow into wrong doctrine or false beliefs because of false gods or false things that take them away from God, God will call that adultery. But in this case, he's calling this fornication. It's having never accepted Jesus and the true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They never knew God. They completely rejected him and went with the Antichrist. They followed a false god. So the kings of the earth followed a false god, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So the world followed this beast government, which is ruled over by the Antichrist, who is claiming to be God, and the people worshipped him as God. The city, the harlot, has ties to the entire world, and that city made the world rich because of the worship of the Antichrist as a false god. And this is because of the mark of the beast and having the world come together as one government. And the world, all the nations and all the people accepted its religion of the Antichrist and agreed and acted on the murder of Christians and Jews. They became drunk, which means they reveled and they took a lot of pleasure in what this government has done. They became rich because of this government. So John is then carried away in the spirit into the wilderness, and he sees a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. So the woman is the harlot, and that's the city of that is in connection with the beast kingdom, the beast government of the Antichrist. So we see that the city is somewhere in the desert. The wilderness, when it relates to the Bible, is the desert, because when the Jewish people came out of Egypt and they were walking through the wilderness for 40 years, that was the desert between Egypt and Israel. So we see that this city is in the desert, and it's the woman is sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So we know that this is the description of the first beast of Revelation 13. This is the beast of the Antichrist that is powered and controlled by Satan. It says the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. So it's describing the woman in different ways. So the woman was wearing purple and scarlet. Purple is a color that represents royalty. In ancient times, purple was a very difficult color to come by. So if you were wearing purple, that usually represented that you were of a high status, that you had enough money to be able to afford the color purple. And usually the only ones that could afford that or had purple in abundance was royalty. And the color scarlet is red, and that represents the beast and Satan. It represents the blood of the people that they killed, the martyrs, and the affiliation with the beast. Then it says the woman was adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. So this represents that the city is very rich. It has extreme wealth and very rich. This city has become very wealthy, and through its wealth, the rest of the world governments, the rest of the world has become rich as well. It says she had a golden cup full of abominations. The golden cup represents all types of evil and blasphemy, and this is what the nation thrives on. This is what they are reveling in. They drink out of this cup. It's how they live. The harlot, this woman, which is a city or a nation, is called mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Just as the original Babylon controlled the world and was in rebellion to God, so does this new city or nation. The original Babylon was a one world government where everybody had the same language and everyone was in one mind. There wasn't different nations in the time of Babylon. Nobody was divided at that time until they created the tower, and all of a sudden God changed everyone's languages and people began to separate based on who could understand each other. But because of this, the false idols that Babylon had was able to spread around the world because the people spread around the world. They took the false idols and abominations, things that were against God, and they took it with them. And over time, the customs evolved into new types of false gods. So what false idols and false gods and things that were against God was in Babylon, they took it with them when they spread out around the world. And that's why in each country or nation around the world, you have different false gods and different religions. But it all stemmed from the original city that controlled the entire world, Babylon. This city or nation is a mystery. It's a mystery because it's in the future. It's something to be revealed in its time. We don't know what the city is going to be called or what country or nation it is, but the spirit of that nation is of Babylon, the original city that controlled the entire world. It says, I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. It says this city is responsible for killing the Jewish people and the Christians. They're drunk. They think they're unstoppable, and they revel and enjoy their status. They're very pleased that they've basically killed and wiped out all the Christians and the Jews on the earth. Because at this time, there are no Christians and Jews on the earth. All the Christians were martyred or killed or failed the test and ended up getting the mark. So once you get the mark, you're not Christian anymore. And the Jewish people, all the Jewish people were killed as well. But the only ones that survived were the 144,000 Jews that God caught up to heaven. And the Christians that passed the hour of trial, they were also caught up to heaven as well. But the city, the woman, they're reveling, they're drunk, that they killed the Christians and the Jews. So next, the angel is going to tell John a little bit more about what the beast is. So it says that the beast you saw was and is not and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. He's talking about kingdoms. And the beast is a government or kingdom that was in the beginning, which is Babylon, but comes back at the end. But it goes into perdition, meaning it goes into the lake of fire. They're cast into the lake of fire. When after everything is done and finished, we'll see that the beast, the Antichrist, and everyone that worshipped him will go into the lake of fire. But this kingdom of the beast is a kingdom that controls the entire world, just like Babylon controlled the entire world before. That's why it says the beast was and is not. But yet in John's time it was not. But in our time it ascends out of the bottomless pit. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life. These are the people that are unsaved. They're not in the book of life. These are the ones that it says in Revelation 13 verse 3, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. They will be in amazement of the Antichrist and of the government that is created because of him. And they will worship him and believe that he is God. They will marvel in amazement that all of this is happening. But these are the people that are unsaved. These are the ones that are not written in the book of life and will be cast into the lake of fire. So they'll marvel when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. It was a kingdom in the past, and right now it is not a kingdom, but yet it will be a kingdom when the Antichrist is revealed. Then the kingdom of the beast, the government of the beast, will be like Babylon was in the past, where they control everything, led by the Antichrist. So then it says, the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and there are also 7 kings. So 7 mountains represent nations or countries that are still in existence today in the Middle East. They are nations or countries that have had kings of the past that have had world empires, and that comes through the lineage of Babylon. Like when it's talked about in Daniel's vision of the statue, it talks about the empires that will come through time, but it begins with Babylon. Babylon is the head, which is made out of gold, but it continues through time until the last kingdom. So these 7 mountains are the countries of those kingdoms of the past, and the 7 kings are the rulers of those countries. Those are the kingdoms. So 5 have fallen. 5 kingdoms have gone in John's time. 1 is, and that one is the one that was in power during the time of John when he wrote this. And the other has not yet come. So that kingdom is in our time, and that kingdom must continue for a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. So the 8th government The eighth kingdom of the world comes from the seven kingdoms of the past. The eighth kingdom is the beast government. It is a revived government in the same spirit of Babylon that controlled the entire world. This is the same one that he is talking about in Revelation 13 and Revelation 17 verse 8. The beast is the eighth kingdom of the world. It's the final kingdom that rules the entire world. It says, "The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast." The 10 horns equal 10 rulers who come from and rule over these 7 countries that were the countries of the past 7 kingdoms. They're not kingdoms now, and the rulers are not kings of their own kingdoms. They don't own the country or have any authority or sovereign government of their own. The 10 horns are 10 rulers. These are the ones that the Antichrist puts into power in the caliphate of the Middle East. They are ruling from these 7 countries that are from the 7 kingdoms of the past. They have no real authority over these countries, but they are given authority by the Antichrist to rule these countries, to have this caliphate, and to rule over these countries as kings for 1 hour. That is the hour of trial. During the hour of trial, the Antichrist has a caliphate in the Middle East, and he appoints 10 people to be kings in that caliphate, and they are positioned in these countries to be kings or rulers of the countries in accordance with what the Antichrist wishes. The Antichrist is the one that has the authority, and he gives these 10 people rule over the countries. They have no power of themselves. They are under the authority of the Antichrist. It says these are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. One mind means that they're in one alliance. It's a caliphate, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. The beast is the Antichrist and the government that he creates. It's like each state is part of the United States, and they are all under the authority of the capital in DC. They're all under the authority of the president. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. This is talking about after the fall of Babylon, after the fall of the beast government. This is talking about when they come against Jesus when he returns to earth at the Valley of Armageddon. They will come together to try and fight Jesus, but Jesus overcomes them and he destroys them. Next it says, "The waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." This is all the nations and the countries that the beast government has ties to and interactions with. This is a government that has global ties, making it a one world government. And how is everybody connected? They're connected by the mark of the beast, by the mark of the Antichrist, the mark of that government, or the mark of the religion, and that is called the beast. So it says, "The 10 horns which you saw in the beast will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." So the rulers, the 10 rulers of the caliphate, will not want to be under any other authority except for the Antichrist. So whatever alliance that the Antichrist has with the city that is keeping the world in connection with the beast through the mark of the beast, the 10 rulers of those nations will go against that alliance. So it's like a civil war where the 10 rulers don't want to be under any other authority of the government. They want their own kingdom. And the 10 rulers hate not having their own sovereignty. It's like the Brexit that happened recently in Europe, where Britain decided to exit the European Union. The alliance that the caliphate of the Antichrist and the false prophet created, it breaks down. So whatever the city of mystery Babylon is, it controls the world, and the beast is its kingdom and government. The 10 rulers are in one mind, turn against the city and destroy it. The beast government, the beast is the 8th kingdom of the world, because it's the Antichrist creating this caliphate, and it is allied with a city that is a mystery. Why is it a mystery? It's because we don't understand what it really truly is yet. That's why it's calling it a mystery. But the clue is that it's Babylon the Great. It's a city that brings the world together by the mark of the beast to worship the Antichrist, to worship the beast, to worship that false religion of the Antichrist. And through that, that is creating the eighth kingdom. Because of that, that is what the eighth kingdom is. It's the Antichrist and his false religion allied with a city that causes the entire world to follow and worship the beast, the Antichrist. And that's why it says that the world was drunk with the wine of her fornication. But the 10 rulers that were appointed by the Antichrist, for some reason, do not want to be allied with that anymore. And so they decide to go against that city that they are allied with and burn that city to the ground. They destroyed the city. This is why the eighth kingdom in Daniel's vision is iron mixed with clay. These two alliances of the beast and the harlot do not mix well together. Just like iron and clay does not mix together, the beast and the harlot do not come together in harmony. So that's why the beast ends up hating the harlot. This kingdom cannot come together because this alliance is formed of nations or people that do not get along well together. And because of this, the kingdom turns on each other. And this is why the beast ends up destroying the harlot. It ends up destroying Mystery Babylon. They destroy the city because the kingdom is symbolically iron and clay. They do not get along. So the theories of what the harlot is or what city it is, a lot of people think that it's the Roman Catholic Church or the Vatican, because people say that the Vatican is a church or a city on 7 hills, but the Bible says that the city rests on 7 mountains, not hills. People can say that they meant hills when they wrote mountains, but they knew what a mountain was compared to a hill. But it says that John was whisked away to the desert. So the city cannot be the Vatican because the Vatican is not in the desert. So the city will have to be spiritually Babylon, located in the desert. And it is connected and resting on the nations. It is relying on the nations of the 7 kingdoms of the past, of those 7 kingdoms of the past that brought about the Antichrist to create the beast, to create this new kingdom of the beast. Because out of the 7 past kingdoms, out of those 7 nations that are still in existence today, the Antichrist comes out of that. And through the Antichrist, the beast government is created through his false claim to be God. And this 8th kingdom that brings the world together is because of that. So it may be because of the false prophet, the Jesus figure, the fake Jesus, or the Jesus figure that could be a Christian type of thing, a false Christianity, because maybe the Catholic Church will turn away from God and follow the Antichrist because of the false prophet tricking them. So what is the mystery of this city? It's not known yet. It's relying and in charge of the beast government that was created by the Antichrist and the false prophet. But the 10 rulers that have no authority but were given rule over these countries as kings by the Antichrist, they will come together and plot against the city that is allied with the Antichrist and the false prophet. And they will come against the city and destroy it. Now, after this, the term beast will be in a different context. It will no longer refer to as a government, because with the city being destroyed, the government collapses. So the term beast in the context will always refer to the Antichrist, not the government of the Antichrist, not the beast government or the kingdom. Because it's only a kingdom or a government when it's together with the harlot. So once the harlot is destroyed, the government completely collapses. And this ends up collapsing the entire world's governments. So the 10 rulers create a caliphate in allegiance to only the Antichrist. And this only continues until the words of God are fulfilled, which is in Revelation 19 when Jesus returns. So it's saying that God is in control of everything, and everything is moving towards God's purposes and plans to be fulfilled.